And today I went to work because I was trying not to burn 2 days of leave because um, tomorrow I know I don't have the mental capacity to work. So I took off tomorrow, but I worked today. But my functionality was like 50%. I could hardly focus. It is weird. Trying to pay attention to tasks. I try to spend the day doing some mandatory training. Thank you that I had for work. And asked one of my guys to handle our weekly meeting tomorrow. And I told him why I was taking off, and he was like, I totally understand. So taking off during the weekday is not something I do a lot of. But I need to sleep in tomorrow and just give myself some peace and some rest. My daughter, hey Mama Boom, my daughter and I have a plan. We both have food that her dad Mark used to like, and we have chocolate cake. So her and I will probably be spending the day crying and hanging out with each other on the phone because she's on the West Coast. So that's our plan. We'll see how that goes. One of the first gifts that was nice this weekend, I really got good. One of the first gifts that Mark gave me was actually this necklace. And he gave me a dozen roses. And when he gave me the roses, hey Tawana, thank you for the heart me. He had this chain wrapped around the roses. And I was so excited about the roses, I never paid attention to the necklace that was wrapped around the roses. He had them wrapped around there so tight. Follow Live Creator. Okay, Kat, I know you and I were following each other. This is so weird. I don't even understand that. And so when Mark passed, to put our wedding bands on this necklace was just so appropriate. And so I think I've shown this before. These are our wedding bands. Thank you. The inner one is my wedding band, and then the outer one is Mark's wedding band. And so to put this on a necklace that he had given me was just appropriate. And so I was excited about that. I have a photo album. Let me see which one it is. Oh, this is from when we got married. Mark and I, and this is a share story conversation. Anybody that wants to come up and share about their loved ones, please. I'm not much on a whole solo conversation, so I would appreciate anybody that wants to share about their loved one. So this photo album, we had a lot of little miniature ones when we were dating, and then when we actually eloped and got married. We got married in Florida, and by the Justice of the Peace. And what I like about this photo album is they're not stuck in there. So that is a picture of Mark. I don't even know where we were, but we were someplace in Florida. And we went to the beach because it's Florida. Oh, thank you for the gifts. I meant to charge up because I wanted to give people. Oh, I knew I forgot to do something. And this is me thinking I'm hot in a little swimming suit. It was one piece, but it was cut out to two pieces. That's in the beach in Florida. And I think there's something that Mark, the next picture in here, if I recall correctly. Yeah, this is Mark in the water. Oh, back in the day, thought he was a hot thing, had his midriff out there at the beach. No, there it is. It's without the glare. Thank you so much. We met in the military. We actually lived in the same barracks. Thank you so much. And we lived down the hall from each other. And the way Mark and I met, there were some guys having like a movie night in their room. And if you've ever been in the military, the rooms are sort of set up like college dorms. And I went down to somebody's room to watch movies. And honey, thank you. We, oh, look at that. anywhere. Thank you. Hey, Robin. And so we lived. I feel like Minnie Mouse. We lived down the hall from each other, and I never saw Mark at all. And in fact, when this happened, I was dating this other guy, but he was on duty. He was TDY someplace else. So I was kind of enjoying being single and kind of like not having anybody. So when I went down to the room, there were people there. They were hanging out watching movies, and I just sat down wherever I sat in the room. I don't even remember the movie that they were watching, but I left to go to the bathroom. And then when I came back, I was sitting on the bed where Mark was. I mean, it's a room full of people. We're just sitting wherever we can sit at. And he started talking, and I was trying to watch the movie. And I wasn't giving him much attention because we were the same height. I always wanted to date somebody taller. I wanted somebody tall. I'm 5'9" in my real life. And so I always wanted to date somebody that was like 6 foot or something like that. And I was like, he seems short to me being the same height. And I was like, I'm not dating no short guy. I'm not doing this. And my girlfriends kept saying, he seems really nice. You should really give him a chance. And I was like, I don't know. But he was talking that night, and I had been working out, and he gave me a back massage, and he did pretty good. And I was like, okay, that was cute. That was fun. And Lawrence and I were the same height. Really? I don't remember that, Rachel. Okay. And then I didn't see him for a while. And then one day I had duty. And so in the military, you sometimes have to perform 24-hour duty, and you're watching the front door, who's coming in and out in the charge of duty. And I was sitting at the desk with somebody else, and Mark just walks up, and I'm sitting here in my uniform, and he just comes and stands right between my legs, and he was like, hello. And I was like, okay, you kind of bodacious here, boy. And I blew him off because that was a little aggressive for me. But he wanted to make himself known. And I was like, oh, those are pretty. Thank you. Oh, and the butterflies. Oh, that is so pretty. Thank you. And my friends and I had a party like in the parking lot. We had a keg of beer, and we were hanging out and doing stuff, and Mark was there. And I was like, okay, he's really trying to make himself be seen, so let me give him some attention. And so we were all going to what year did you get married? 88. We got married in 88. May 17th, 1988. And so some friends were going to the movies. And so I had asked Mark to go to the movies, and he thought we were going together, just the two of us. But it was the same people that had been in that room watching movies. And so we went together. And so when he got there, he was like, I was like, yeah, we're all going to the movies. And so afterwards, he asked me to go to Pizza Hut. And I was like, okay. And so we go to Pizza Hut. And this was the first time in my life I ever saw somebody eat pizza with a knife and fork. It just seemed, I was like, okay. So I watched him carve the pizza and eat it up. And I was thinking, this is going to be interesting. I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. Because I'm picking up the pizza. I'm from Chicago. You pick it up with two hands and you're eating and you're going on. So this part of the story, I really enjoy. I went to the restroom and I was coming back, and Mark was looking at me, and I was like, okay, he kind of feeling me. And as soon as I get close to the table, he says, you have toilet paper on your shoe. And I was like, awkward. I take the toilet paper off, and I can't really remember what happened, but I was thinking this is probably going to be a first and last date altogether. And it wasn't. It was, I could not believe, I think that was the only time I was out with somebody and had toilet paper on my shoe. and we just both laughed, and it was just hilarious. Um, and I want to say we dated for maybe about 3 years. Um, so I dated the a date that lasted 30 plus years. One date, I know, Rachel, like you met him and that went right on to something else. And so I got orders to Korea and Mark got orders to Honduras. And my orders to Korea were for a year. And his orders to Honduras, I want to say was for like 6 months. But he had actually, so we met at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. And then he went to Fort Huachuca and I went to Korea. But before either of us going, I took leave and went to Chicago to visit my family. That's kind of what you do when you get ready to go out of country, I guess, if you like your family. And I went to Chicago to go on leave. And then Mark came to Chicago to visit my family and to see me off before I left. Hey, Dance. Hey, Denise. Hello. I am willing to share with anybody else that wants to share memories of their loved ones. I didn't plan on this being a solo conversation. I was open to anybody that wanted to come up and share about their loved ones. And so I took leave in Chicago. Mark came to visit me. And this was the first time a Caucasian person had been in my parents' house, as far as I can remember. And it was so funny. My dad was a Chicago police officer. And so Mark comes in and he started code switching. I never heard our birthdays are coming up in a few days this year too without him. Oh, Tally, I haven't seen you in so long. Hey, girl. Oh, how have you been, Tally? Oh my gosh. I'll be home in 15 minutes, leaving work. Okay. Hey, him life. And so, oh, I had not heard my dad do the code switch voice. And I was looking at him. Oh, I'm glad to know that. And just watching my dad code switch, I had never heard or knew what that was or anything. And watching him do that had me hilarious. And I was trying not to laugh just watching this. Thank you, somebody, for had me hilarious. And I was trying not to laugh just watching this. Thank you, somebody, for coming up to share with me. Sylvia's probably coming to ask me questions. She may not be coming to share. That's what I think she's doing.
You know me.
To share with me. Sylvia's probably coming to ask me questions. She may not be coming to share. That's what I think she's doing.
You know me too well. I'm like, I'm going to come on here and interview Tina.
Okay.
No, I caught you in mid-story. Finish your dad with code switching.
So my dad starts code switching. I totally forgot to charge and buy coins. I meant to do that. I am so sorry. And so my younger sister comes up to Mark and he has on this herringbone gold necklace. And she goes, "Is that real gold?" I was like, "Are y'all serious?" And they were just like, and so my dad is shaking Mark's hand and he goes, "Oh, I thought you were going to be bigger." And Mark said, "I thought you were too." I was like, "Handle your business, sir. Okay. You got this. You got this." And we went to go see The Color Purple. Now, I lived on the south side of Chicago. So we used to call this Ever Black Plaza. So it was in the hood. And so
Did you say Ever Black?
I did Ever Black Plaza.
Okay.
It was in the Evergreen. It was called Evergreen Plaza, but they would call it Ever Black Plaza. And so, hey, it fit. And so I didn't think this through because I took the white boy to go see The Color Purple in Ever Black Plaza. And so it was a movie I wanted to see. Hey, Andrea. And so we're walking out of the movie theater, and I'm just like, just so much watching this. And I'm just mesmerized. I'm thinking of the movie. I'm walking, and I'm just like, and Mark's going, Tina. He's trying not to, draw attention to himself. But when you come out the movie and it's just people everywhere, and he's like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And so we get to the car, and we went to McDonald's, and he wanted to get some tea. And he walked in, and they started speaking Spanish because surely this white guy is not here on the south side of Chicago in McDonald's. And he came out, he said, they're speaking Spanish to me. I was like, wait in the car. Let me go get what you need. And I was like, okay, that kind of fits that they would start speaking Spanish. That was that story. So that was just before I left and went to Korea. And I was there for 18 months. Mark was in Honduras. No, actually, he first went to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And after being in Korea for 6 months, I came back to visit him in Fort Huachuca. He came to visit me in Korea. And then he got out of the military. And I was then stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. And that I'm ready for your interview.
So how long did you date? And I may have missed some of this. How long did you date before you got married?
It was about, so we met in 85 ish. So about 3 years. Interesting. Fred and I dated about 3 years before we got married. I never thought of that.
Okay, that's the sweet spot. 3.
Okay.
It's good because you got to go through a couple cycles. You got to go through a couple of summers, a couple of holidays. You got to,
Yes, somebody is. Exactly.
yes, because people change with the seasons. You got to ride it out a couple times.
I never
So,
thought of that coincidence. Okay.
okay, so how did you know Mark was the one?
When he told my dad, I thought you were bigger, I was like, okay, I can see this. I can see this. When I came, so we had dated for 6 months, and then I got orders to go to Korea.
Mhm.
And a lot of people get married super quick in the military, and that also often turns into hot garbage. So we knew we didn't want to get married. We knew we wanted to still see each other, but we had also said, if you see somebody else wherever you're at, this is not a thing, because we had just been dating for 6 months, but it could evolve to something. But we didn't want to put because it was fast and furious. So it was like, okay, whoa, that was hot and heavy. That was a lot quick. I have orders to go to Korea. He has ordered to go to Honduras. When he came to visit me in Korea, I was like, okay. I mean, that's a far way to come to visit somebody.
Yes.
And he was living in Arizona. Hey, Danielle. And
Hey, Danielle.
because when I came to visit him, I was thinking, okay, this could be a one-sided thing. It may not be reciprocal. Now, back then, we were using a payphone. So there wasn't cell phones. We were averaging a phone bill about $300 a month, calling each. And it was mostly on him because he had an apartment and I lived in the barracks in Korea.
Did you have to
So
wait until after 9 o'clock before you can call long distance?
it was a lot of that, the time difference between Korea, because it would be a cheaper price.
Mhm.
So yeah, so between the phone bill, but when he came to visit me in Korea, I was like, I think this is probably going to be a real serious thing.
Hmm. Yeah, he crossed oceans for you.
Literally, I
Yes.
was like, okay, I think this will be one. I was like, okay, this is probably going to be it.
Okay, so walk us through how he proposed, or what was that process?
There was no real proposal. And
Okay.
I tried to think about that. We just talked about, I had purchased this red Dodge Colt that had a $500 rebate. Mark was living in Pennsylvania with his parents, and he was thinking about going to photography school, because he was a photographer in the military. but he really wasn't set on that. But we had just talked about, okay, I had the $500 rebate. We got this vehicle. Let's go to Florida and elope. It was more of a mutual agreement. It was just like, okay, we're going to go do this. And in fact, I think we got married with these wedding bands. And I think I'm pretty sure I got the engagement ring was later when we came back after getting married, just to sort of have one. It wasn't a proposal type thing.
Mm-hmm.
We actually went to the jewelry store on base in the exchange, and they have all these rings there. And it was a diamond cluster ring. And when I got remarried, I took my engagement ring, that diamond cluster, and put it on a necklace and gave it to our daughter.
Oh, okay. I remember I grew up in the military, so I remember going to the BX on base and looking at the jewelry and thinking, "Ooh, this
Exactly.
is so fancy."
That.
Yeah, I
Yes.
can only imagine how many wedding proposals came out of those little cases. Like, hey, I
Exactly.
like you, you like me. We might be moving in 6 weeks, so let's do this. Let's get together.
And that's exactly how quick it was. And it was like, I mean, we didn't want to do that because we had seen a lot of that. I mean, people were getting married in basic training in your T school. And it's like, surely you don't know them. Like, what are you doing? But so, yeah,
Staying busy.
that part.
I'm too young. I was too young to know any of that. But hindsight, growing up I mean, I lived on an Air Force base till I was 18, and I'm like,
Okay.
oh, all these people living in these little tiny little, 1 bedroom. I don't. But okay, let's see. So, what is something that Mark would do for you that, and you can keep this, I don't know, you can keep it clean or whatever. But like, what is something that Mark would do for you that made you feel, um, I'll just say special? What is something that only Mark could do that would make you feel special?
Being in an interracial relationship, he took the effort. It comes to my mind to blackatize anything. If it was something that, and it's not a word, but
It
it's
is
just what
now.
comes.
It is
It
now. Blackatize.
is
Somebody
now.
put
Okay,
that in the
Hebrew.
comments. Put blackatize in the comments.
If he brought a card and it was a card he wanted for me, to the effort he would take to literally get a brown crayon and color it in because it was a card
Oh,
he wanted for his wife, blackatize.
blackatize. Yep.
And
Is it a new?
he
Yes. Blackatize.
because Mark looked, I mean, blonde hair, white guy. You would not think he's married to the chocolate girl.
Mhm.
And his, you just wouldn't, I mean, you look at me, you wouldn't think like the white guy. It's like, okay, how'd that work? Because, and it's his effort to make it personalized for me. The Mark was just selfless. And I don't know if it's to say like what he was the only, like one time he went out for a hunting breakfast. Like Mark loved to hunt. And so there was this hunting breakfast and all the hunters got up like at old dark 30 and they went out to eat. And Mark came home and he didn't have his keys to the house. And so, I mean, it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday. The kids and I are still asleep. And thank you. And we're out cold. I think we had been up the night before hanging out playing. And the house was on one floor, so he could have easily knocked on the windows and woke us up. He got into the sunroom, thank you, and he slept in there on the couch with a blanket until we woke up.
Hmm.
And so the kids and I are now eating breakfast, and we hear somebody knock on the door. And the only way you get in there is like you're in the sunroom. And, we like, click, click, what? Like, we try to figure out, lock and loaded, like what we doing. And he's like, it's me. I'm like, okay, sir, you know how this house works. And And he was out there. And I was like, wow. I was like, why didn't you wake us up? He said, because you were asleep. And I was like, sir, you play too much. Because if that was Tina, da 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 da, I would have been knocking out. Like, y'all, we time to wake up. And to we adults, the white boy could grind.
Okay, Mark.
And we used to joke that we were going to be an old
He
couple.
blackatized it. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
He black it. Yeah, you would have thought he was a yeah. He. And so we used to joke about we were gonna make love, be old people, hold hands, and then drift off into eternity. That was half right. When Mark and I met the weekend he passed, so he had been in Virginia, and now y'all black ties for good. And I
We
was
need
living
t-shirts. We need t-shirts.
and I was in Pennsylvania. And so we met in Delaware, at Dover, Delaware. And so we get in and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was ready to eat a snack. And I was like, "Sir, we still got rolled." He was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "We don't get to freshen up, sir." And I was like, "Hold on, how she do it like this?" And
I
I was
remember
like,
that.
and then we went to the movies and got something to eat. And then came back and finished that off. And I was like, this is going to be a lovely weekend. That was my thought. That was the last night. The next day he left this world. I was like, who gonna show up in heaven talking about they threw down like that? I want to
Mark.
see how that worked when you rolled up. But like, I could see him going, my man, my man, my man, clapping the man.
He
I'm
got
like,
like the high fives,
exactly.
the spirit tunnel, the daps.
And I could see him going, see that one down there? I tore that up last night. I'm like, sir, how does this work?
Hi,
Yes,
Lisa.
exactly. That Danielle. I was like,
You got
who
it.
does
Yeah,
this?
for sure. Okay, so I'll flip that. What is something that Mark did that just drove you crazy? Like, what was
The man
something?
was sloppy. The man
Fluff.
he was the white Sanford and Son. If
Okay.
he thought if he thought there was anything that he could still use or keep, he would do that. I'm like, it was like if he had the cap to a pen, he was like, well, I'm gonna find the pen. I'm like, sir, you're not. Like that pen is gone and so should the cap. We had these chairs. Now, Mark could have built a house with his whole hands. Like he was phenomenal. But he was sort of kind of lazy sometimes. Like I mean, he'd be working, and then when he come home, he's like, "I worked hard. I'm not doing nothing here." And I'm like, "Sir," but he didn't want me to pay nobody to do nothing, so it had to be on his time. And so we had some chairs in the dining room, and the legs were kind of broken. Like at the legs at the bottom, you pushing them together and doing
Mhm.
that. I had pushed them together. I did all the glue that I could, and they were not stabilized. So we sitting in a chair and we always wiggling like that. And he was like, "I'm gonna fix the chair," and I was like, "But you're not." So I started yelling. I took the chair and threw it into the garage, and then it was like one chair, two chair. And it was like, pick your fights, Tina. Pick your fights. And it was like, so I was like, all right. So then we start eating in the kitchen because there were no more chairs left for the dining room, just about. And when I tell you, this man was a collector of things. The 2.5 car garage we had never parked in there the whole time we lived in that house because he had this in there, he had that in there, and his mom was a hoarder. And I think she had been through a bad flood and some other stuff. Oh, thank
Mhm.
you. And he picked up that hoarding and that
Oh
shopping
wow, that's cool.
shopping from her. And I would look in the garage. I was like, Tina, pick your battles. The man is faithful. He don't drink. He ain't womanizing. So he got a little sloppy tendency.
Blackatizing.
And I was like, it stayed in there. And it was just, oh, that would drive me mad. His level of just, and I should have known better because when we first got married, we had a water bed. And in the water bed, it had like these little shelves above your head. And his was always junky, like just for no reason, junky. And I would clean it off, and then he'd make it junky again. And I thank you. I would clean it off, and he would make it junky again. And my side was over there looking like it was ready for inspection. His side looked like, I mean, we had a laundry basket. It was a wicker laundry basket, and it had a lid on it. He could not lift the lid and put the clothes in. All the clothes would be on top of the lid, and in the laundry basket lid. I mean, it looked so cute. You would have appreciated it. And I just got to a point, I just threw the lid away. I was like, can you now? And you know what he did? His clothes was on the floor. And I was like, but you know what? Fred's clothes is on the floor right now. I don't say nothing no more. I don't care. I gave up. I gave up. And it was just like, but that, yeah, the sloppiness and like like, okay, black ties again. I was the one on time. Mark was the one always late. I'm like, make it make sense, sir. Like, I didn't got both kids ready and me, and he over here like, I'm coming. I'm like, and then we get someplace, they want to think it's the color girl's fault. I'm like, no, it's him. It is
I
not
was
me.
ready.
I was ready. Yes.
Kel's always late, drive me nuts.
Oh my gosh, I can't stand that. It's like no. Like I was like I don't like being late. I do not like being late.
What kind of music did Mark like?
Oh, Eagles, hard rock. Like I listened to so much stuff I never knew existed being with him. I was like, and the playlist that my brother made, thank you, Ann, for his service, was just like all the music he would like to listen to. Um, yeah, all of that kind of stuff. The Eagles was his favorite band.
I like that. Let's see. What else do I want to know? I feel like I'm just getting to be nosy. I like this. Um,
Anybody is welcome to come up and be nosy with
yes,
Sylvia.
please join us. Um, did Mark, did you all agree on having kids? Did you all have a conversation about having kids, or did he want a lot of kids, or how was that conversation?
Um, yes, we talked specifically about having children. The goal was to have two. We were hoping to have one of each, and then there was no reason to have something different. We were willing to have up to three with the idea of having at least, oh, thank you, for at least to have,
Mhm.
thank you, Blues, to have one of each. And um, I, I am very intentional. So the first time I got pregnant, I actually had a miscarriage, and that was when I look back at it. We had to, we that was my first real experience with grief. That experience of that miscarriage. And then after that, our daughter Catherine was born, and Catherine's name is, Mark had a grandmother named Catherine, and I had a grandmother named Catherine, and so both had a grandma. Woo! Thank you. I'm gonna get out my cowboy boots. Um, and so her first name Catherine, both of her grandmothers, and then her middle name is my mother's middle name, and then Mark's mother's middle name. And you get to ride a cowboy.
Oh, yay! Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
then our son Mark was not into the junior thing, but our son has Mark's middle name.
Okay.
So the goal was to know. Oh, thank you for gifting her. The goal was to have two children, no more
That
than three.
one's really pretty.
That is the forever rose. Thank you. So yeah.
And so, okay, so Catherine, firstborn, how was Mark as like a new dad? Like,
Oh
was
my
he
God.
like all in, or was he
All
like,
in.
here's the diaper, what do I do with it?
Totally all in. Totally. So Mark used to travel. So this is Mark getting stuff ready for the baby room.
Oh,
This was a finished product, the high chair he put together. He put her bed together. Put up all the border, everything in the room. His parents had given us this bed, and this turned into one of those toddler beds.
that border was bordering.
It was. And so here is me all prego.
Ah,
And so Mark used to travel. And I worked corporate accounting. And then when I got pregnant, I wanted to stay home. And I had like this whole PowerPoint presentation I was going to give him about how I could do this. And we're driving in the car. Hey, Lisa. And he goes, do you want to stay home? And I was like, yes. He said, okay. And I was like, that was it. That was like the whole conversation, like a drive home. And I was like, but I had a presentation. And so one of the times he was traveling in Michigan. And where he was at in the hotel, this was Catherine sleeping in a drawer because
oh,
we didn't have
you gotta
any
do
place
what you
else to
gotta
go.
do. Oh,
Exactly. So since I wasn't working, I would go to wherever he was sometimes if he was traveling. And this is in the hotel, him playing with her.
that's so cute. Good grief. You say, I feel so old. I don't know how to work any of this TikTok stuff. What are you trying to do? We can help. We're old too.
And while we were there, some of my friends in the military lived nearby, and we went to visit them.
Woo, that wood paneling.
Girl, that says it right there. Right there. Right there.
Oh, gifts.
Oh, so good grief. You have to um you can go in your right down there's a box, I think it says gifts. I can't think of what it looks like if
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
says
looking at it.
gift and it's got like a present, or at least mine. I have a present. I have roses.
Yeah. But you also have to put money on that. Um the pictures of the kids now are really in my phone. Thank you. Um look, I'm trying to see. Oh, I did not do that. I did not bring up any pictures of Catherine and Alex now, but most of them are on my phone. I have, yeah, when I look at all of this, these are older pictures. Oh, I do have some downstairs. Okay. Um, I'll, I didn't think to bring that up. I can go do that. Hold on one second. Let me go get those.
You're just gonna leave me on here by myself. What other question should I ask? Andrea, I saw your question. I don't want to let that one go. What was um the best gift Mark gave her? I think that was what you asked, which I think that's a really good question. Trying to think of what else we can ask. Nice chair. That is a cute chair. Tina's got a whole little vibe back there behind her.
Sue, all of the pictures, what happened?
And I think we were commenting on your chair and your like vibe, your butterflies, and I can't read. It says family. What's the word right behind your head?
Hope.
Hope. Okay.
Salvation Army, $25.
Hey, I love a bargain.
So most recent pictures, um, are in my phone. The year Mark passed, Mark was big into Christmas. Like he would go out into the woods, cut down the Christmas tree, drag it back to the house, the whole thing. We was not doing any of that. Because I saw myself standing out there with an axe crying. And I was like, nope. And trying to figure out how to navigate the holidays. So hard. So we went on a cruise. Yeah, I wasn't doing that. So this is the album from the cruise with the kids and I. And the funny,
You say you remind me of someone famous. Are you talking about me or Tina?
uh,
Who's the
this
famous
is
person? Oh,
this is
okay.
this is Catherine, Alexander, and I on the cruise together.
Let's go, Catherine, with the legs.
I know. And it's funny because no one planned on what to wear. We just knew we were going to take pictures and do something. And the fact that both of them were matching, I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay, so me, I look like someone famous. I want to know. I want to know who.
This is
Connie,
act.
thank you. I've worked all day. I've cried 3 times today.
This is
And
Alex.
oh, look at Alex. This little
Now these
fade, got his little fade going.
these pictures, but these are 8 years old because this literally was the year that Mark passed. And I can tell looking at these pictures how hard we were trying to smile.
Yeah.
How hard we were trying. Like right before they took those pictures, we were sitting at the table and looking at the empty chair because it was a table for four. And we would just, every time we would have to go into the dining room to eat, we would try to find a chair that had like three people or to do something because it was just so hard sitting in there knowing that the person that's supposed to be the fourth person at the table was not there.
Yeah, y'all were trying to smile. Where did you cruise to?
The Caribbeans. And that was our first
Oprah.
time.
Lisa thinks I look like Oprah.
Huh.
I
And
need
the
some
reason
Oprah money. I'll look like Oprah. She cut me a check.
and the reason why we took the cruise, that year did not buy Christmas gifts for anybody, and we had brought passports, and we were going to take a family trip out of country. So going on the cruise was like honoring a wish that Mark had for us to do something and go out of the country and do that. And my children's godparents, they're big cruise people. So they lined everything up and scheduled and did everything. We just had to take care of the stuff and do that. So the cruise was the easy thing to do to kind of honor Mark's wishes about going out of country as a family and then still doing something.
We did something a little, not, we didn't go on a cruise, but my husband, Andre, was a big Dallas Cowboys fan. And
Okay.
so flew to Dallas to go watch a Dallas Cowboys game around his birthday.
Okay.
And it was like as much as it was, fun, I guess, to be there. All the entire time I was there, it was just like this is where he wanted to be.
Right.
Everything that we were doing, it was what he wanted to do.
Exactly.
I do believe that those kinds of like doing those things, as hard as they feel and as empty as it is to like see that empty seat, or for us to just be sitting at the stadium and cheering on the team, and then like there's he's not there to high five, like
Right.
it's hard, it's devastating, but I believe that it's important to still do those things. It's, in my mind, it's just kind of training myself to do more, training myself that, okay, if I can do this experience, and it's hard, but if I can do this, then maybe I can do the next thing.
Right.
And, and maybe it won't be as hard.
I think it's harder not to. I think I agree with you
Mhm.
because for me, if I started not doing anything, I always thought what would be left for me to do. If I stopped doing all the things that we enjoyed together, and I would be in the house and I wouldn't go any place or do anything.
Mhm.
And that started for me going into the grocery store and going down the cookie aisle because that man loved him some Chip Ahoys and some Oreo cookies, and standing there and just crying and being like, the next time it won't be so bad.
Mhm.
But I've got to do this.
I can relate to that. Mine is apple juice, the apple juice
Okay.
aisle, because my husband was a diabetic and we used to keep those little bottles of apple juice everywhere, in the car, in the house. I had some in my car, in my bag, like any time that, his blood sugar would drop, I just wanted to make sure. And now, I mean, the first couple months, like I literally avoided that aisle. I'm like, I don't need juice, so I'm not going down there. And then one time I was at the store and I just like, I almost dared myself. I'm like, you know what? Go down that aisle. Take the power back from that apple juice. And so, like, I went and, to anyone that's not grieving, this sounds like crazy talk, like it's just apple juice, it's just a grocery store. But that's one of the aspects of grief, and just remembering somebody and the footprint that they had. A little bottle of apple juice or a little, a box of cookies or whatever. I mean, it's more than that. And so being able to acknowledge and recognize the things that our loved ones loved, and be able to do it, get to a place where you love that again, and not necessarily, every time you see some Chips Ahoy, you're like, having a whole breakdown. But yeah, Andre, I won't say he loved apple juice, but we had a lot of apple juice. And to this day, when I see apple juice, he pops in my mind. But
I can totally relate to that. I want to respond to a comment. Um, Kimberly, thank you for that comment. It says that's where the depression comes from if you don't push forward. You know, I I can relate to that, but I want to share something. I think that also, um, just the sheer fact that they are no longer here, the sheer fact of me having to get in that bed every night and him not be there, me having to look at his toothbrush that he's not going to use. I think the potential for depression happens by their sheer not breathing anymore. I think it can be compounded with the other different things. It's those constant memories floating in your head, the floating into the idea about he used to be here just yesterday and he's not here today, and feeling like I was. The best way for me to explain it, I love the movie The Matrix, and there's a scene, and I want to say it's the third one, where Trinity and Neo are flying and they're going, the Sentinels are attacking them, and since Neo can see the light, the Sentinels are grabbing him and looks like he's leaving out of his body. And then Trinity grabs him and pulls him back. And I feel like that's what my grief looked like. Me floating out of reality into the past, into this present, and trying to grab something, pinch myself, remind myself I'm in this right now space. Hey, Jazzy,
hey, Jazzy.
that that almost drove me mad. that the idea that I will never hear his voice again, that I will never touch his hand. I'm saying you will sit it and get stuck in it, not being able to move physically or emotionally. And I think I agree with you. I'm just adding to what you're saying. The sheer fact of them no longer being here can cause depression because it is a it is a very difficult state to think that the man that I just made love to, his hand is now cold and I'm laying on a table where he's not moving. The sheer fact of that is enough to be depressed, is enough to question my existence and what I'm doing. And depression can still look like me going to work and functioning. I just may go home and not talk to anybody and stare at a wall and be dysfunctional. I had a lot of that. I had a lot of times of that where it was, what's the one memory that makes you laugh uncontrollably? Uncontrollably. I'm gonna answer that, Lisa. So I think the depression, they don't, them not being here is enough. That's it. I think that can cause depression. The other things can make us maybe stay there longer. But I actually, Jamel. Oh my gosh. So Jamel and I used to be stationed in Korea together. Um
What base were you at in Korea?
Yongsan.
Okay.
Um
My dad spent a year in Korea, but at the Air
yes.
Force Base. So,
you you feel emotionally paralyzed even though yes, um one of the things that what so we got married and we were in Florida and we were in the it got cold and all we brought were shorts and different stuff like that. So when we got married, let me say this while Jamel's in there. She has twins and those people are grown now. But we got married and we stopped and visit with her. I don't know if we were on our way to Florida or on our way back. Jamel, I can't remember. Hey Maurice, were we on our way to Florida when we visited you or were we on our way back? Jamel, you have to let me know. Oh, thank you. Um, and so we're in this coat store. It was like, I don't remember if it was a TJ Maxx or something, but Mark came over with this trench coat and he just started flashing me. Oh my gosh, they're getting ready to be 38. Girl, yeah, they are grown. Jamel, do you remember if we were going to get married, if we were coming back, if we had just gotten married? But those little babies, oh my gosh, they were like, and they were babies. Like she had went to work, and like we were babysitting while you were on the way to Florida. Okay, we were on the way to Florida to get married, and we stopped to visit her. Were you at Fort Bragg? I can't remember where you were, but yeah, Mark was just so that was one thing. But the thing that he would do the most, Lisa. So we would have this game we would play at home called Who's the Funniest? Fort Bragg. Okay. And so the way the game would work when we would sit down to eat dinner, because 90% of the time I was cooking and we ate at home. And Mark would start. So the goal of the idea was to bring your most funniest experience to the table and laugh and talk about what happened. Mark would start telling his story and he was so smitten by it. He would laugh and we would almost never get to the end of what his story was. And he would like do this thing like he would laugh like that and he's trying to tell the story and then we're trying to hear what he's saying and it would be like, can you stop laughing so we can see if you're the funniest? And it would be so hard for him just to tell the story and not laugh. And when he would tell it, he would be the funniest, but it just would be miserable trying to get to it. And now we're laughing. We don't know what we're laughing about. And we're trying to
those are
figure
the
this out.
best. Where you
Yeah,
just don't even know why you're laughing.
that thing. It
But
is
it's
like,
just like it just your stomach hurts because you're laughing so hard. Those are the
Exactly. It
best.
is that kind of thing. It is that kind of thing. That and and so to this day, when the kids and I try to play that game, we just start laughing like when we start telling a story and we never finish because that's what he would do.
Hmm. That's funny. Did we get all the questions in the chat? I think so.
I think so. I wanted other people to come up and share stories of their loved ones. Smiling over here. I'm willing to take other interviewers if anybody else wants to
I
interview
know,
me,
man. I've
sister.
been putting in work. This has been an hour of interviewing or just being nosy. I think grief, as we know, is so it's such a wild ride, and it's so it changes, and it ebbs and it flows, and one minute we are sad and upset, and missing our person. And then in the next minute, we can laugh about something they did, or, and it's such like grief it's the whole human experience. Like I feel like remembering my husband, obviously I remember the day that he left this earth. I remember the days leading up. Those were some of the hardest days of my life. I will never forget those. But I also had 23 years of stories and moments and, all of that. And it's hard to sometimes remember the good, without remembering like the bad. But I'm just learning that that's the space that we just, that's how you get through it. You have to allow space to be sad, to remember those moments, and I'll give an example. I had one that happened just today, where my son, I have a work trip that is getting scheduled at the same time as my son's senior night. Um, and he plays sports at school. And so, normally when we would have conflicts like that as a two-person parenting household, you divide and conquer, okay? Like, I've got to go on this work trip, but, dad's going to hold it down. And the realization hit me is that I am the parent, like, and it made me sad for a lot of reasons. It made me sad that my husband's going to miss my son's senior night. It made me sad that I didn't have him, that he's not here. He had the nerve to leave before, my son did all of this. And so it's just been living in that space of missing them, feeling sad. But then also, I had an interaction with a neighbor this weekend that I hadn't seen in a while, hadn't seen since Andre passed. And he just came over and just was telling all these like great stories about my husband and the things that he had done for him. And I mean, this grown man was like crying in my yard. Because he hadn't had an opportunity to come, and talk to us. And so that was like a really great moment. So it's such a roller coaster. And it's like we just have to make sure our seatbelts are on tight, because it's literally a ride.
It took me so long to remember the good memories.
Hmm.
All I could remember, I feel like that first 2 years was that last week. Everything that went up to that, everything that day playing in my mind. And when it finally popped, and I could not just look, it's like I was looking at pictures, but it looked like somebody else's life. Like I didn't remember being a part of that.
Hmm.
And that was super challenging to me because most of the time I consider myself a high functioning person. And the mental lapse, I was not prepared for um, the idea that I couldn't remember stuff. I couldn't. think of stuff, that I had this life that no longer existed in my mind, to be able to remember that. And that was very difficult for me, to think that I couldn't remember stuff, and that scared me. That
Mhm.
scared me, like thinking, like, what's wrong with me,
Right.
kind of scaring me. Like, he, thank you that he left this world and now I'm incapacitated. Like, what's going to happen now? Like, because I never heard anybody talk about grief and talk about that you would have memory loss, or your body would ache, or you couldn't sleep. And that was very difficult for that to happen, and have no concept of this is what really happens.
Hmm.
Hey, Danielle, are those new glasses?
Uh, yeah, I've had them for like a couple of months. They're my first multifocal ones, but I hate to say it, I can see way better with them. I was like,
Danielle,
oh,
I'm like
great.
right there. These are my readers, and I barely can see what's in the chat because I'm like too far away. But I don't want to be like all up in everybody's
I
face.
have I have to say they're worth it, and they don't have like that line or anything like that.
Okay.
They're just like, yeah, they just are, because they I got contacts last year, and the eye doctor was like, you know, you're going to need readers with these because of your age, and I just gave her a dirty look, and I'm like, I think I'm fine. And then I'm like at work squinting at the screen and everything like that, and I'm like, oh man. Um, and
Jazzy, did you color your hair?
I dyed it darker. It was supposed to
Okay.
be closer to my like natural color, but now like the lighter is popping through. We just can't get it done at the moment.
Okay.
I got it done for my birthday though. We cut it and then we dyed it, and then that's the end of that.
Okay. Hey, Lee. Danielle, did you come to interview or did you come to share?
I was going to come to share because my questions tend to make people cry, and I'm not doing that.
I'm here
Uh,
for it. I
well, I was
have
going to ask a
handkerchiefs.
couple questions, and I'm like, no, Danielle, the people are having a good time. Shut up.
No, 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 no. I was here for handkerchief and I was here for laughter.
So, no, I was just going to ask like a couple questions, like, so like if you could say anything to Mark right now, what would you say to him?
Mark used to drive a Fiero, a little red Fiero, and I don't see, that's not a very popular vehicle. You don't see a lot. Hey, Rochelle, today, as I was leaving my office, there was this white guy in a Fiero in military uniform. And I was like, of all days.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that was just enough for me to, in my head, go like, you okay, baby? I see you. And if I were to tell him anything, I would say, we did well. Our children are good. You prepared me to the reality that he thought he would not be here till a certain age. And I will love him forever. And the choices that we made in our 20s and everything we did was right. We could have, yeah, we could have done this better, or, this. But at the end of the day, like when my husband passed, I had no idea how many people were looking at our relationship as relationship goals, or what that, I mean, we argued in front of our children. They knew what an argument looked like. They knew what making up looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And we did good. And even though it was painful, if I got to, like, if there was a button where you got to redo life, I would choose him without any hesitation.
I
I would
said
have
that
made him go to the
before. Yeah.
doctor more.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I think that's important. I think a lot of us would say that. But I mean, I know a lot of people. We're all a lot different, but I would say, yeah, I'm the same too. Like even knowing everything, I would do it again. I
And I'm
probably,
grateful because I know everybody didn't have a good marriage. Every
yeah,
marriage is not good.
yeah,
Some things are not, there's a lot of abuse and violence, but that was not our space. And
yeah.
I would be grateful for that.
I have a question. But it could go for you, it could go for anyone. It's just like a general question. So when it comes to like anniversaries, especially like their birthdays or like when they pass, like what are some things that you tell yourself to like keep yourself going and also like not get stuck in that rut of like this day is happening and I don't know what to do about it type thing in your
But
brain.
do you have to? Here's the thing, though. And this is just me. Not putting, I'm very big on putting pressure on myself. And so, one thing that I've learned from this whole experience, yeah, not me at all. Shocking. Is the one thing that I've had to learn throughout this whole experience is being easier on myself. So, if I'm preparing myself that it may be a rough day, and it's okay. It's okay to have a rough day. It's okay to be easier on yourself. Because sometimes, and it just depends on yourself. I mean, sometimes you do need to have something scheduled or whatever, and sometimes it depends on you. I know that I can't schedule anything for certain days, and then like the day after, it's like that grief hangover. So it's like the worst, worst of the worst. It really just depends on you, and it may change throughout time too. Like I don't like this is my second year. I feel like every anniversary, birthday, whatever is new
Yeah.
because it's a new timeline. You're going through new symptoms. You're going through new things in your life, new seasons in your life. You mean you just turned 21, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's just different things that happen with that. I don't know. That's my thoughts at least.
No, it
What
makes
about
sense. It makes sense because I'm very hard on myself too, so I have to remind myself constantly, like, go easier on yourself,
That
especially to degree.
that's that neurodiversity there.
what about you, Sylvia?
We were talking. Sorry, Lucas just got home, so I was slightly
Oh,
distracted. But we're talking about how we cope with anniversary dates. Um, I feel like a rookie because I really just kind of lived through my first year of first time going through. And I think how I approached it this first year might be very different. Maybe Tina, save this live and let's revisit this in a year. Um, but I think this year I just wanted to not put any, like, we know the days are coming. My body knew when it was our anniversary. My body knew when it was his birthday. My body knew when it was Father's Day. My body went into overload around the holidays. And even the 1 year, which was just a couple weeks ago. And so I think what I'm trying to learn to do, or what I tried to do this year, is just whatever I felt. And I tried not to, if I was sad, if I stayed in the bed, then that's what I did, because I didn't know how I was going to react or respond to the anniversaries. Our wedding anniversary, which was in August, he passed in February. So our wedding anniversary was like the first big anniversary. And I will say that one it was hard, and I didn't know how to prepare for it. How do you prepare for something that you've literally celebrated for the last 21 years of your life with a person? And then you wake up, and then I tell you, it's hard, like where people were saying happy anniversary to me. Um, it was hard, but I will say I don't have anything other than just whatever happened that day is what happened that day. And I just kind of took a mental note as to what anniversaries or what days felt a little bit harder. And and it could be very different this year. That's what I'm saying. Let's run this back in a year and I'll let you know. But like, I know that our anniversary was our wedding anniversary was probably the hardest of all of the anniversaries.
Were you surprised because I was surprised by which ones were harder and which ones were actually not as hard.
Yeah. And I think his death anniversary was not as hard as I thought, because there was a lot that happened around, a month ago, personally. But to me, his death anniversary, and this is going to sound probably really crazy, but not to y'all. But it almost felt like not a celebration. That's not the word.
I felt accomplished.
Yeah, it's like I made it a whole year. Look at me. I got a tattoo. I can't see it. I got a whole tattoo.
I was looking for my certificate to come in the mail, and it didn't.
This is I made my own certificate. I love that. It's like, where's my, widow, year one certificate? I'm expecting it. But so that was the one that surprised me. Because one, I think I tried so hard not to remember that day. Like that day, and even I recount the hours of that day so much, and that the weekend, because my husband, it was like a couple of days, but this year it didn't feel as heavy as I thought it would. It was still heavy, but it was heavy for reasons other than that was the day he died. It was more like that was a milestone for me. I survived. And that was more overwhelming than just it was the day that he died. But
They have been different every year. The first year, I just felt like I was checking the block and moving, checking the block and moving, checking the block and moving. That because there was this concept after you go through the first year, and then at the end of the first year, I was like, he is still dead.
Who wrote that book about the first year?
And
Where's that book?
I was like, he is still unalive. What are we doing next year? Because now my tribe is huge. And they were marking everything with me. The 11th of every month was like some kind of little major minor celebration. You're still here, you're doing it, and you're still alive. And for no fault of their own, no one was doing that every year, every month. And I get that. But they have remembered every year, 8 years later, the day Mark left this world. The anniversary, I let that go after 2 years because it seemed like, what am I counting for? That was me. It was just like, this is counting what didn't happen. And it was pissing me off. And and then we weren't really smart because our wedding anniversary is the day after my birthday. So I needed to decide, hey, Tony, I'm going to celebrate my birthday. Our anniversary don't matter no more. That was the day we got married, and we were together for 32 years and married for that, but there's nothing else to count. Because in my head, I was like, we would have been married, and I start getting pissed. So I needed to stop doing things that was going to make me pissed off. So the wedding anniversary, I let go after 2 years. His birthday, because that was the thing we celebrated in our house, was each other's birthday. Like Christmas, you were only limited to one gift per person. It was very minimal in our household. But your birthday, you knew there was a cake coming. You had to pretend you were surprised that the candles were coming, and we were doing all of this different stuff. So that part last year hit me really hard. Tomorrow, um, I give myself to not have to do whatever I want to do. Um, I'm not going to work because today was hard. I was disassociating mentally, and it's like I had some tasks I needed to do, and it was like we're going to keep ourselves at a 50% productivity level today. No trying to be superstar today. We're just going to get the things done we need to do, and I did. Um, but when it was time to go, I was like, and we're out of here because I had zero left. Um, I believe for me, I want to honor his existence. I want to give space for that day that was the most horrific day in my life. It's not so much as just remembering the pain, it's remembering him. And I can't help but as I thinking this isn't the day of the week that it happened, but it is the date. And thinking of what we did that day. And it today it just I was thinking, you really don't know what's gonna happen the next day. I mean, if you would have told me on March 10th, 2017, did I think Mark was gonna leave this world the next day? I would have like, how's that gonna happen? Why? That's crazy bus. No. And sure enough, it did. And but it also made me feel very good that I listened to God's prompting and I was where I was supposed to be at that moment in time. And it reminds me sometimes you only get one chance to do something. I get one chance to be nice to somebody for the first time. I get one time to make a decision that's going to have a lasting impact on somebody's life. And how I show up that one time can change everything else. And when we checked into that hotel, I was super nice to the ladies down at the, just cause, I mean, I was just talking to them. I was just being myself. And when my life shifted, they stopped everything and reciprocated that niceness that I had shown to them. And we just have one chance to do things. And the reality, this life, I would, 8 years, 8 years, it blows my mind to think I've been lifing for 8 years in his absence. And it's just like, wow, okay,
Tina,
we are out here.
is there anything that you think Mark would be surprised about? If Mark could show up, walk through the door today, and he got to see your life today, what would he be surprised about?
I've not had a lot of dreams about Mark, but when I purchased this house, and this was, I had never purchased a property by myself, and I purchased this house. And I moved in that day. Like I came up in here with a blow up mattress. I was like, if the mortgage starting, so am I. We up in this piece. We are sleeping here. Um, Fred and I were still dating. We weren't even engaged yet. So you ain't living up in here. Ain't no ring on it. We're not doing that. So,
My house.
so I came in here and had my blow up mattress in the master bedroom. And I remember telling him I did it. I moved to Virginia and I got a house and I'm doing it. And I dreamt that night that Mark had come into the house and I had a couch downstairs. And the way the dream went, I walked downstairs and he was sitting on the couch and I was like, and he just smiled. And he walked around the house and he walked around and looked at stuff and he looked at me and he smiled. And then he just went into different parts of the house and he smiled. And what that meant for me You're doing okay. You're doing good. You're making it. And he never spoke. And that was the last dream I had of him. And it gave me peace. And we talked so much about him leaving this world early that when he did, I was like, damn. Like,
Man of his
really?
word.
Like, really?
Wow.
And so I know that he would be happy that I am doing my life and being happy with myself. I think he would not be surprised that I started a whole nonprofit because in the conversation with my daughter in her podcast, she was like, "Well, Mom, I'm not surprised you did. You just like what you were going to do because I'm a proactive person. So I am constantly making lemonade out of lemon. And so I didn't see this, but my daughter did. And I would dare say that Mark probably saw that knowing the level of pain that I experienced in his absence, and then to hear that other people feel like they are doing this alone, whatever ability that I would have within me to try to help nurture, encourage, and support somebody, that he would see me doing that.
That's the woman he married.
Yep,
Yeah,
indeed.
I love that.
What's something that you feel like Mark taught you in life?
He taught me how to be patient because I was super high strung. Um, Super always like, gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta do it next, 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 next. And he was over here like, okay. He was zero high strung. Hey, Barbie, he was zero having to. Mark was his his goal was to have a family, have a faithful wife, have children, go to their sports games, and he was content with coming home and doing nothing else. And I was always, what's the next promotion? What's the next raise? Where are we going to go? We're doing something. I'm already planning the next thing we're going to do, and da 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 da. And he would be like, let's just just right here, just chill, just we ain't got to do nothing. I wish I would have learned that and implemented that more with him than what I've learned to do in his passing. And I remember some of my girlfriends who always goal oriented and then get upset because their spouse wasn't goal oriented. But that created the balance because I was like, our kids would be wackadoo if we were both like that, like gotta go. And it was like, Mark was over there. Thank you for the follow, Barbie. Mark was just content to just basic, and that was good enough for him. And it would make me pull my pedals back more than trying to be out and doing something. Like I did not know how to sleep in. And it was like he could work all week and then like sleep till noon on Saturday. And I'm like, how? Like, how are you asleep, sir? And he just relaxed. Just chill. And I was never good in going to parties and having small talk. I would watch Mark have a meaningless conversation to me with anybody about anything. And I never knew how to do that. And I picked that up from him to just meet somebody where they were, have a conversation, and just engage them where they were.
Yeah. Andre was the same way. And I believe that's a big reason why our marriage worked because it was like you can't both be all gas, no brakes. Like there's got to be somebody that is steadying the ship. And
Yes.
it sounds like Mark and Andre kind of had a similar philosophy. Like they weren't holding us back, but they knew that they couldn't, somebody had to, kind of steady the ship, and so that we could pursue the things and be the women that we are and that we were, and that we didn't have to hold back who we were, um, because our spouse was trying to, go at the same pace. I mean, I think that's marriage, right? Like, I don't, there are times, and I mean, I got to see it for 21 years, but there's times where it's not your time, it's your spouse's time. And you have to kind of know, when those times are. Otherwise, I just feel like it gets really, really hard. A lot of people want to be power couples and all of that. And I get that, and I love that for the people that that's for. But that definitely wasn't my relationship, my marriage.
Hey, Sassy, I can
Yeah.
relate to that. And not only was Mark content, he took joy in letting me accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. There was never, and being, I want to say, okay, being to me what I guess you call a strong, independent woman, I didn't need a man that was trying to hold me down or hold me back. I want to encourage you to do the thing that you want to do, and I hope that you would encourage me to do the thing that I want to do. Mark was content, and his mother, um, like Mark, when we lived in Virginia, he would pack up the kids and go to Pennsylvania and go hunting. And his mother would be like, "Are you coming?" I was like, "Certainly not. They are gone. I am in the house like risky business. Woo! They are out of here. And I'm doing my thing." I was like, "Why would I want to go up there? No." And she was like, "But you're not clingy." Yes, you are correct, ma'am. Like, I am not concerned about being with him everywhere he went. And one time I was staying home, and I felt like I was cooking and cleaning, and I had no time for myself. And I told him I needed to leave. And he was like, "Well, what that mean?" And I was like, "Well, I just wanted to go to New Jersey, which was like the next state away, and just be in a hotel by myself and breathe." And I had so much stress and anxiety. He packed my suitcase and put it in the car. He said, "If it's that stressing you out, then go." I went to the hotel. I took myself to the movies. I took myself to eat, and I laid in the room with nobody saying my name. And he did not care. He was not nervous. He was not feeling like I'm going to go do something. He knew his wife well enough to go, "She is unhinged. Let me support her." And that was good for him. And it was good for me. It was good for our marriage. Because my husband traveled a lot, there was a lot of time that we were used to having space by ourselves. And it was just like, okay, I needed a break. And he was okay to support that.
Happy wife, happy life.
Cal was very similar, where he just like, because I'm very goal oriented, and I'm like going after the next, like you said, going after the next promotion or whatever it is. And he just was like content to do whatever. And it was a different experience because I was married before him, and that marriage, he acted like he was supportive, but then got jealous, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And and it was very different with Kel, because he just was just like my cheerleader, and in all essence of it, not just like fake kind of, or not just for image. So it was a very different experience. But yeah, the same thing though. But then I would be like, come on, like you have no aspirations. He did whatever. He was happy. He was just happy we got this house and everything. Like that was just the biggest thing for him, in life, was getting this house.
Now the kids have said, if Mark was alive, I would not live in this house because the lot's too small. We would have been someplace where it was like Like it looks like I was in another witness protection program, like it was 6 or 7 acres, and you would have to walk miles to the nearest neighbor. And it was like, yeah, we're not doing that. So like when I and Mark Alex was like, you're buying this house? You see how close that other house is to? I said, yeah, I like that. I'm from Chicago. Yeah, we're doing this. And my sister and mom are right next door. But Alex is like, Dad wouldn't. I was like, and he's not. You're right. He's not. He would not live here. It's too close. So there are some things for me that I've thought about, like what I did my way. It would not have been, because I remember that first year in my head wrestling everything I did. What would Mark be doing? What I could not, like, just what would Tina do? I felt like that was some violation some way, until I got to a space. It was like there would be little pockets of me doing what I wanted to do and realizing I get to make my own life choices. I mean, and let me be clear, I was 18 or 19 when I met Mark. I had never lived on my own. I got married to him, moved out of the barracks, and we had our first apartment. So when I moved here to Virginia and I was in a condo, I was like, I've never done this kind of house stuff by myself. So that was a new experience for me in doing that. Capable, but just like, thank you. And just doing that, thank you so much, was new to me. And also exciting. It's like, okay, I remember when Mark passed, I looked in the refrigerator and I was like, I don't like any of this stuff in here. This is the stuff that he liked or the kids liked. Like, I never been to the grocery store and just brought what I wanted without thinking of somebody else. And it was like, it was a lot of me learning myself in his absence about what satisfies me. And that I never thought about that part of this experience, of thinking, what is it that I like? What do I want? I remember one time thinking about dinner, and we had these false craft dishes. And I don't know if you remember false craft. And we had the blue aurora pattern. And Mark's parents would come from Pennsylvania, and we would buy the dishes and go out shopping and do everything. I couldn't stand those plates. I couldn't stand any of that. But I made myself like it because it was blue and he loved it. We had blue geese borders in the house. I went full all in. But those things had chips on it. I didn't like it anymore. And I remember driving home one day thinking about dinner. And I was like, I'm going to have dinner on the plate that the unalive man and his unalive mom picked out. I am done with that. I do not want to eat. I was like, that it's not giving life to me. It's not giving life. And I pulled into Pier 1 and I had me like a pretty woman moment. I walked in and got this and this and this and packed it up, took it home. I was up till like 2 o'clock in the morning, getting rid of the old dishes, putting the clean up. And I think I had takeout, but I was going to eat them on those dishes tonight because I had made it like I wanted these square plates and he only wanted round. And I was like, and we had silverware that didn't match. Like, we grown and still trying to figure out where did this fork come from and that. And it's just like all of that. And just like, I'm going to get what I want.
I would, Danielle. So I'm curious if you had one of these experiences too, because I'm like, maybe this is a widow thing. So I had this moment back in December where I walk into my bathroom and it still had, like, my husband, we had like handrails like around our toilet. We had railing in our shower and
Ricky.
things like that to help him. And, I had this moment where I walked into my bathroom and I'm like, I don't need these handrails. Like, I don't, this is not his bathroom anymore. Like it's my bathroom now. And that led me down a path. I never really never did a video on it, but that led me down about a month and a half of completely redoing my bathroom.
Which I have not
Because
seen pictures of.
yes, it was a hot mess. I do still need to.
Girl, just tap. I ain't got no coins either, and I'm hosting. I totally forgot. I don't care about that. Thank you for coming through.
But I'm just curious for you, Danielle, like were there things that you, or was there something that you were like, you know what? Not anymore. Nobody who's gonna,
So
who's
the
gonna.
my leave for the first 2 months after he passed, I was on leave, and I took the time and I was like redoing everything. I think that was what I was putting my energy into, was redoing things and stuff like that. The biggest thing I remember is that Kel was always like, "We're not getting that flowery bedspread or anything." I have a purple bedspread right now with purple curtains. It's
Thank
all
you for liking the lives. Thank you.
lavender and purple, because I was like, you know what? This is gonna make this is what you know what? It's just me now. You don't have a say
Right.
anymore.
You're gone.
Yeah. I mean, I still, what I realized the other day, because the kids started playing with it, was that I still have a CPAP on his because his dresser I took over. And I started, because I was like, I can't fit all my clothes in mine, so okay. But I still have a CPAP there, and I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with this? Like, yeah, I don't need it. He didn't even use it, so but yeah.
Darcy says he's looking down at you, frowning right now, saying you should do that. Yep.
He's like, I knew you were
Purple with purple flowers and purple curtains and
Oh,
purple rugs.
he probably knew that. Yeah. Now here's the thing, though. I'm getting him back because, so I don't know if I ever told this story. My couch, out in my living room, which I haven't, I realized I haven't been in my living room much after this, but I used to lay on the one couch. I'm like a big, like, couch hog kind of person. And my husband used to complain about, one, he used to complain about me taking up that whole couch. Two, he used to say that we need new couches. Don't you know this man did not want to be in the hospital bed and wanted to stay on that couch and died on that couch, so that I had to get a new couch. I could not keep that couch. I was like, seriously, he got me back. Just saying.
That's the ultimate right there.
I know. I was like, you planned this, didn't you?
It's like, oh, I'm
my
going to
God.
get her.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's great. That right there.
So
Okay,
wait, do you
so
still
I
have
have
the
a
No,
couch?
I got rid of it. I have new couches in there now. Yeah, no, I have a new couch now.
I'm gonna this question. Is there something you want your grief or this experience to look like this time next year? You two are both super gold oriented, thinking like what I want to do and da 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 da. Like, I feel like I floated. I didn't have a plan where I was going to be 8 years from now. It was just like, well, I should say I wanted to be happy. Whatever that happiness and joy look like. I don't want you to feel like I was going through this like year 8, this is what this will look like. I'm like, well, Jiminy Crickets, this is what year 8 looked like. Ain't this something? I didn't start this thinking about a nonprofit. I was just trying to not go crazy.
I think my goal is simple. It's to, because I know right now I'm not living life. I mean, I'm doing more, but I'm really like, I'm not getting out like at all. There's just a lot of things that I'm just not doing. Now, mind you, I'm a solo parent to really young children, one of which is autistic, another one that's having behavior issues because, he lost his father. They're 3 and 6 right now. So, I mean, there are reasons why, but, there comes a time where this is just excuses. And, yes, there's reasons, but there's excuses too. So it's kind of getting through that and getting to where I was when I was in denial. Not like that, like happy, like go lucky, like la la la, this is not happening kind of thing, but the behaviors I was doing. I went out with my friend, those types of things. Um, you know, I could count on like actually less than my fingers how many times I went out since my husband passed. Like
Okay.
just went out with friends or anything like that. It was two. It's been two times. And three if you count me going to his cousin's funeral. But I'm thinking that doesn't count.
That's not
Uh,
going. No.
I don't know. But yeah, it would
Two.
be kind of two. Yeah, two. But it would be kind of getting back into life. And I don't know what that looks like, but some kind of just at least some kind of going forward instead of because I went forward, backward. And so now it's time to start moving that forward.
There is something safe and secure about being in your home and not being all this extra sensory stuff after your spouse passes. It's easy to just get locked into staying at home and just,
I work from home full time too.
yeah. How about you, Sylvia?
I think for me, so this time next year, I would hope to have a little more direction. I feel like last year being year one for me is a blur. I tell that to everyone. I'm like, I don't know how I got through 2024. It is a complete blur. Like if I didn't have Facebook and TikTok and the photos in my camera, like in terms of did last year happen, it's still very much it does it last year is 2023 in my mind. And so, this year I'm trying to obviously not have everything be a blur, reconnect with myself, you know, all the things that like the shock of it all, I would say has worn off and the reality of it all has set in. And for me, Danielle, we're in very different parenting seasons. I have a 17-year-old that's about to graduate high school and go on to college and in about 6 months I will be a complete empty nester. And so for me this time next year, because what I'm really struggling with now, which I think we all do as widows, it's like, who am I? I know who I was with that person in that life and those obstacles and those challenges. But man, who am I now? Because I'm not caregiving for a sick husband. I won't have, a child in my home every single day. Like, who am I now? And what does she want to do?
Mm.
And so, and it's like I think about that right now, even today, and my mind is just blank. It's like I feel like I don't have, and don't get me wrong, like I know I have a lot of skills. There's a lot that I think I want to do and I want to pursue, but it's like I don't even know where to start. And so, my goal that I'm setting for myself, my loose goal, because right now I'm not setting a lot of goals because I feel like that's pressure. I know, clutch the pearls, Tina. I'm not setting goals. um, but I want to, spend some time really learning who I am again, or who I am now, not even so much again, but who I am now. And hopefully this time next year, I'll have some direction and maybe not in all aspects of my life, but at least some direction. It's a very weird place to be in, to feel
It
like
is.
I don't know what to do. I'm the girl that knows. I lead projects. I run, like I do a lot of things where I know what's next because I've planned it that way. I know what milestones I'm supposed to be hitting. I know when I'm supposed to be on track. that's kind of who I have always been. This grief widowhood thing, it's like a project with no plan, no deadline, no milestones. It's just like, but be successful at it, have a great life, try to keep going. So this is a winded answer, but yeah, this time next year, I want to have some direction. I want to rediscover what I'm truly passionate about and be making the steps to step into that.
It's
That's
like you're
fair.
doing a complicated project with dark glasses on, trying
Right.
to figure out how to put it together, basically.
Right. It's like
This
trying to
is
put together IKEA furniture with no instructions.
it's a 3-year-old with a crayon blueprint kind of life.
Amen. Drawing all outside of the lines, which is okay, like I started back to work. I took 3 months off of work, or almost 3 months off of work, and I just started back last week. And I feel like I'm starting a new job. Like I was like, I'm a new person. Y'all just hired me, because the woman that, has been navigating these waters for the last year, she's gone. Now you've got me. And so, and that's not a bad thing. It's just different. It's a really different space. Live
Danielle,
outside
have
the
you
lines.
have you met any widows in person?
Me?
Danielle,
Oh, sorry. Um,
she was glitching.
uh, yes. Well, here's the thing. You never realize who is a widow because I have met two people at work that I never knew. Like, and it wasn't until like I self disclosed that they're like, oh yeah, I am too. Like, there's one that has been a widow for 20 years, and gave me like her whole, like started telling me her whole story, because I'm one person that for some reason people like to tell me their whole story, or they just like, I get random people that just start talking to me and tell me like everything about their life, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what
Yes,
it
it
is.
is, Lisa. Very different. Yeah.
um and then there was one other woman that it was like 10 years, and then the first person I knew was somebody from my work that her husband passed away while we were working together,
Mhm.
about I want to say 5 years ago or so. Um, and yeah, there's somebody else, and I'm trying to remember. But I mean, the closest to that before that was, I went to grad school with somebody that lost their son, and I knew how hard that was, but I never knew, like, you never fully understand. Like, there's theory and then there's practice. And the practice of grief is so much more than the theory of it is. And
Oh,
so she's been actually one of my greatest supporters too. Like, she just
wow.
gets it. And she's probably, she's actually older than my mother, but just wonderful person. Because she didn't start grad school until she was like in her late 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, so she graduated grad school with me. So
Wow. Well, I want to thank you, everybody that's joined. Thank you for working so hard, Sylvia. Thank you, Danielle. Tomorrow, I'm going to get my oil change in the morning because I'm off. I'm trying to be, and I wake up at the crack of dawn, and unless I just sleep in, but besides that, my daughter and I, so we have a couple of different meals that Mark loved to eat. The man loved him some, yeah, Jeep stuff. If it was warmer, thank you. I would take the roof off. I don't know. Maybe I will just for the fun of it. We'll have to see, Ness. Mark loved steak and mashed potatoes and corn. He also loved some hot dogs and pork and beans and French fries. And then those, I think it's Carol's or McCarroll's chicken pot pies. and mint chocolate chip ice cream, Pepsi. And when I was thinking all this stuff, I was like, no wonder he had a heart attack. This is what he ate all the time. He like, well, I don't eat vegetables. So I was like, um, so I brought the pot pies and I have chocolate cake. And Catherine, I think, is going to go with pork and beans and French fries. I'm not sure. It's
Why does that
interesting.
sound so good to me right now?
So Catherine and I may have a cry fest tomorrow. Alexander's perfectly fine. He's over there like, I know what today is. And Catherine over there like, ah! And he's like, going to work. And her and I are devastated together. So
You know, I have another question. I know you're trying to wrap us up. How is Fred on on Mark anniversaries, and like brag on him, because I know he's probably just amazing, but like I want to even understand that as like what would I look for in a future potential someone, and how what it looks like to truly care for a widow on that day.
I am not making this up. If I would have ever, I just can't make this up. He is just amazing. Um, he has been this way from the time that we were dating till right now. And like I just went downstairs to get a photo album. He was like, "Are you okay? What's going on? What do you need?" I mean, he's just like that. Like when we had the movie night, I tried to set up the movie night in our bedroom because there's a TV in there, but the acoustics wasn't working well. And Lisa was trying to help me. She said, I can't hear. And so I went downstairs and he was watching something. I said, you don't have to worry. But I just want to hear how it sounds. And Lisa said, it sounds better. He said, you need me to go upstairs? What do you want me doing it now? His flex is so quick. I was like, I'm talking about for Friday night. And so he said, okay, I'll go upstairs because the cleaning lady was coming Saturday. He said, I'll get ready for the cleaning lady and I'll do whatever. And Lisa probably heard him. And he was just like, okay, I'll be out the way so you can do that. His support blows me away. Like, I don't feel like I'm a good wife to him as much as he is a good husband to me. And yeah, so Lisa, if you want to come up and talk, like she heard him like the instant, the real conversation, like right there. I mean, and to the point, like when Lisa and Short Bridges were here and we had the event here in Norfolk, Fred stayed outside checking the perimeter and making sure nobody came in and bothered us. He never came in. He got some takeout food. He sat in his pickup truck. He went around the building with his dog every now and then and made sure that I was safe. He didn't want to come in. He didn't want, yep, he was on security. He didn't want to bother. I just, he's just so good and supportive. Um, I mean, I cannot really articulate how intentional he just is to make sure that I'm okay and to make sure that I'm just happy. And like I said, I told him the other day, I was like, I'm going to go. He was like, well, you're taking off. He has it in his calendar the day that Mark left this world, so that he will know to pay attention when I'm acting off, what that represents and what that is. And so I said I was going to get up and take the car to get the oil change. He said, well, do you want me to do that so you can just stay home and rest? I said, well, I'm probably going to be up at Old Dark 30 just like this. So I probably should just go and get the oil change and then I'll probably go for a walk. And he's like, what do you
Me too,
want?
Danielle.
What?
She says, that's it. I'm not settling for anything than this. Same.
I would say Date yourself, because who I am dating me is not the woman that Mark had at 18. I am the woman I am now from being with Mark for 32 years. I'm not so thirsty that I want to be with anybody just for my sheets to be full that I'm going to take some dirt trash.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
That's the one thing. You know what though? I'm not the same because I dated before Cal, and I feel like I had a lot of pressure because I was in my early 30s, and I'm like, and they got that whole like 35, you need a baby before 35 kind of thing, which I had them later, but anyway, and I'm not that same woman. I couldn't care less right now, and I think that's probably the perfect time to go date because I don't care.
Thank you, Jamel. You have seen
Weed
me
him out.
through my most
Yeah.
devastating
Well,
part in life.
did you ever see? There's a creator that that does this thing where he does back and forth where it's this woman that's getting these things and it's like a woman that weeds out her is not that blocks red flags right away. And his whole thing is like they'll say something and it's like a
Oh
love
yeah,
bomb.
he's the guy. Not doing
Yeah.
that.
Blocked.
Yep. He's funny. Yes.
I'm like, I gotta learn from this.
Okay, and so to that point, my no game is strong. When I started dating, my son was like, "Mom, it's gonna be hard dating you." I was like, "But I'm worth it." And the caveat for me was this: I had a good marriage. I didn't want to ruin that with trash because I was thirsty. And I was also dusty. Like I wasn't having widow fire. Like I was over there like, girl,
Not
hello,
dusty.
hello. Are we? Like that was me. So I wasn't even over there like trying to fake it. It was like, I'm gonna be a nun. Like I'm not gonna have to worry about it. Like it wasn't anything going on. And literally, this is so messed up. I hugged Fred and she was like, "Hey girl." I was like, oh, now you want to be talking. I'm like, now I need you to not be talking. I need you to mind your business right now. Like we got to be up here. We got to
Woke up the beast.
And I was like, oh, hello.
I have to say, the one thing is I'm glad I waited though, because like the first like couple months I was like, and I'm like, it's like there was just thoughts, and now like I'm glad I like had some time to reflect, and I'm like, you know that you know that you're not one of those people that can go and just be like friends with benefits or any of that stuff. Like I can't do it.
It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And when I started dating, um a lot of my girlfriends, I think they were trying to like live through me like, you're single now. I'm like, I'm not single. He ain't he not breathing. This is not like we got a divorce and I'm up here living my best life. I am on the struggle bus over here. So they were concerned about me dating and someone taking advantage of me economically. They were concerned about those different types of decisions. So when I was dating, it was like a group project. Like they wanted to screen, they wanted to see who I was talking to. And I feel like now that I don't have a supplier, my drive seems. Oh. And my sisters, Tina, when did you start dating? It was about I'm gonna come back to Elisa. So we were dang on, I lost my train of thought.
Supplier question.
No, sure. It's the group project. When you were
Oh,
dating the
so
group project.
when I was dating, like my sisters, two of my sisters were on the dating app. No, at least you're fine. Look, because I hadn't dated somebody in 32 years. Like I was afraid I was going to be this gullible, needy widow, like needing all this attention and not paying attention. I had so many questions. I'm surprised I even kept dating because it was like it was like, and what about this? And what about this? Fred would wake up every day to literally to to 3 to 6 questions. He would go, I got your questions. Let me get my coffee and I'm going to answer them. And I was thinking, this dude don't want this because he wasn't getting nothing. Like, she may have been alive, but he wasn't touching it. It was like, oh no, because we know what happens when you start thinking down there. You start making dumb decisions. We did that in our 20s. We gonna need to pull that all the way back. And so, and then he goes, well, I always heard people could date and like not be having sex. It's like something I want to do. I was like, I hope you mean that, because
Shop's closed right now.
and he maintained. I mean, he let me kiss him first. He was very gentle with me, and we were both asking a lot of questions because I mean, we're way over 50 over here. Like, there's a whole life. But the part that blows my mind, from that first moment I met him, it just felt like home. And it just felt so natural and organic and comfortable. Like, to think that we've only been together, like, I was like, I was in my mind, I was like, okay, God, how is it going to work? Huh?
I'm just reading down for maintenance.
You know what the you know what you know what it
Out
reminds
of
me of?
order.
Hold on. So I didn't know how I could be with somebody for 32 years and be this comfortable with somebody else. And it just flows. And I kept waiting for the boot to drop. I kept waiting for like the real person to come out or do something. He has been the same person from the moment we were dating to who he is still 5 years later. And I would say I am a better wife now that I am with Fred because of the wife I was with Mark. And my standards were higher because I knew what it felt like to be treated well. I don't need you to for my gas. I don't need you to, you know, go get my nails done and do that. I need you to keep your D in your pants, be committed, be faithful, uh, know what it's like to treat me well and to make me feel loved and important. I didn't need to have a husband. I wanted to have somebody. And that is a difference. Like, I'm not, we don't have a uterus. We're not trying to have nobody kids. That ship has sailed. But I wanted somebody to share my life with. I needed somebody to have the same faith that I practice. I needed to know when life gets hard, your go-to is going to be praying for me and lifting me up and encouraging me. And so those things were important. And I feel like if you're what you're looking for, you have to find out who this version of you is and what are you dating for. If you're dating because you want to hook up, be honest with yourself. But if you're dating because you want somebody to cohabitate with, there are some people who their finances are built on them being a widow. They cannot get remarried, maybe Social Security. There are some of my widow veterans and things like that. There are financial stipulations that prevent you from getting married where you just, whatever that is, but make decisions that you can live with and that you're going to be comfortable with, and but don't sell yourself out. There are vibrators.
But well, I was going to say, I mean, it goes to show you, and this has been the thing, and for some reason, you know, like my impatience sometimes gets the best of me, but time and time again, what has been the lesson is that anything worth having is worth waiting for. And that, like that's been the biggest theme in my life that I have learned. Like I think about like all the dating that I did before Kel, and like finally having that relationship, and you know, and that came, like that eventually came, like what's meant for you will come for you, and you don't have to push it and everything like that. And so, you know, I just felt like that, you know, that's a testament to that. It's like you
You're
didn't
right.
set it.
So Nurse Tora, hey girl, I ain't seen you in a while. I can't remember the number right now, but if you were married and your spouse made more money than you, and you planned on taking their social security, you have to be single until a certain amount of age or you will not be able to claim that.
Not for
But
the
if you,
kids though.
huh?
Not for the, there's no financial things for like if you're I'm only collecting for my kids.
Right,
So
and I'm
the,
talking about when you want to collect
yeah.
his, you as the
Yeah.
widow. And so, um, it is. And so also for some of my military widows, they may or may not be able to get remarried because then they would not receive the stipend that they receive, especially for my Gold Star widows, that from their spouse. I can't remember what the age is, so I'm not going to try to say age, but if you're a widow and you plan on collecting your spouse's Social Security, if you get married before XYZ age, then you will not be able to collect their Social Security. And you have to wait until that. But if you made more than your spouse, you could you could talk to somebody in Social Security Administration.
I
There's a
would
lot
love.
of nuances with that where you could draw from theirs and then hold yours back and then get yours at a certain period of time. But talk to whoever does your tax return, but call the Social Security Administration because that people can be surprised like they got married.
Somebody answers.
Huh?
I said, hopefully somebody answers.
Well,
But yeah, those are
I would be
stipulations.
curious to know, like, the reason, and maybe
Oh, hold on.
I'm
Lisa
not
had a question.
educated. Huh?
Hold on. Lisa had a question. Where did it go? Hold on.
so when did you start dating? Like how long?
Is that what she asked?
Yeah, something along those
Okay.
lines.
Tina, when did you start dating after, may I ask? Just curious. So, Mark passed in March of 2017. New Year's Eve timeline 2018, I was visiting with a friend and she had been single her entire life. And I was staying at her place and I put a glass down and she was cleaning it up. And every time I did something, she was moving it around. I was like, how long are you going to be single and you don't have space for somebody else to be doing stuff? It just got me to thinking. So I went upstairs and made me a dating profile like that. Like it was New Year's 2018. And I was like, can we even talk to another person and not start talking about my husband and what that would look like? So it was an experiment to start seeing like if I could talk to people and start understanding what a scam looked like and start doing that. But I don't think I would like went on any dates or did anything until about a year after Mark passed, like sometime in June of 2018. But it started opening my mind to the idea that I could see what that was like.
So you have,
But
oh, I'm sorry.
I met Fred um, May of 2019 when I had moved here to Virginia.
You have a series on YouTube about dating, right?
I do. You check it out. So
Not
yes.
yet, but
Oh,
I remember you saying it, and I'm being like, I want to go check that out.
So every Friday, if I'm good, it's called the best dating tips in 2025. Um, on average, in your opinion, what is the average time frame? So I'm gonna come back. So every Friday, I try to put out dating tips and different information because I found it helpful and useful. And people ask me, Lisa, I don't know a good answer for that. If I were to, I can't say that because I've talked to a lot of different people, widow or widowers, and some people they've had horrible marriages and they are looking for something good or they're afraid of getting burnt again. There are some people that never want to get remarried. They just want to get laid. They just want to get out there, hit it, and they don't want to be bothered. They don't want nobody in their life. I think that of all the things is one of the most individual choices for you to know when you're ready. But more importantly, to understand for yourself why you're dating. But I will say there are some things for you to tell if you're not ready and what that would look like. If you want to date and you're afraid for anybody else to know and you want to keep it on the down low and nobody can know, you're probably may not be in a good space that you want to date. Like if you're going to date and not one girlfriend, not one third cousin, not one nobody going to know, and you feel ashamed, if you feel like you're cheating on your spouse and you have not really come to the realization that they are no longer here and you are not married, then you may not be ready. If you cannot fathom holding a man's hand, woman's hand, walking down the beach and feeling like I'm in a good place with this, or if you feel like you're going to throw up doing that, you're probably not ready to date. If you feel like you can be in a conversation and genuinely want to care and understand what another person is saying and give them your time, those are some things on an individual basis that when I'm coaching with people and doing things that those are some benchmarks for them to identify if they're in a good place to date or not. That's generally how I approach it when I'm coaching somebody. I can't because the one thing about time, it matters what you did during that time. If the whole time of your grief you have come home and stared at the wall and cried, which is perfectly fine, and that's all you've done, but you may have not done any work on you and your well-being. And I ask people when they think about dating, are you a person that you would want somebody to present to them? Is your mental, physical, and spiritual in a place that you would want somebody reciprocating and offering that type of person to you in a dating experience? If you can't say yes to that, then I would ask, why would you be dating? She made me go all coaching mode. Like,
It's fantastic though. I like it.
those would be, but Fred, oh, you're welcome. I I was intentional about what I wanted and what I didn't want. And I was prepared to be single and say no. My siblings, I'm one of five, and I was the only one that had ever been married. And I was thinking, that was a good ride. That was pretty cool. You're going to have to be rocking this out as single because my sisters and my brothers are living a full life and they're single. I cannot put the limitation of being married to the only way to have a life I enjoy. So that was in my mind that this I'm good. This will have to be good enough because I know the reality is some people never even got that. So I'm going to have to learn how to be content with what I have. And I was okay with that. I was dating with the idea it may not work out, and I'm okay with me. So
I love it.
I can't believe I'm here though. It blows me away to think this life in my existence has had two really good men to be involved with and to be here. And Fred is a huge supporter of the work that I do supporting people and doing stuff. It I'm it seems like a dream world, Neil.
Don't wake up. If it's a dream, you don't have to wake up from it.
At all. I'm just living it through. If nobody, so I'm not a fan of, as you know, prolonging things. Are there any other questions or anything? If not, we accomplished what I wanted to do. I wanted to share memories. I wanted to talk. I wanted other people to come up and share. Jamel, if you want to come up, uh, I have really enjoyed you ladies. Have a great night. All right. Um, Sai, I wish it was a dream too. Yes, I wish it was. But here we are living. But I definitely will say this. Thank you for every person that has allowed me to share. I am honored that any information I've shared that has been helpful for you on this journey, because this is the most difficult experience in my entire life. I don't want to sit here and we're having some kiki conversations. This was hard. This was the hardest shit I have ever done in my life. 8 years ago, I was in the corner in a hotel on March 11th, screaming into a phone to my sister, saying, "But I love him. How could this be happening?" And all of the emergency people were in the room trying to resuscitate him, and them taking him to the hospital, and them telling me where he's at. And I'm like, I can't figure that out. And making the MP take me to the hospital, and then hearing them say, "Mrs. Fornwall, we need you to go in this private room," and thinking, I don't want to go in this private room because I know what they're going to tell you in a private room. And trying to write down and be in the middle of nowhere and trying to get details to tell my family and friends, to have my sister sending a Red Cross message to my son who was in the Navy to bring him home. My son was out eating dinner with friends and then on the corner crying. My daughter coming by a family friend who wouldn't tell her why she was coming, but coming there. Losing my whole mind in that hospital, crawling up on that table with my husband's body and his hand cold, and thinking this was just the hand that was holding me less than 24 hours ago. This has been hard. This is hard now, today, the reality, even though I have learned to create a life I love. This is not the life I had envisioned. So I want you to be encouraged. I encourage you to keep pushing for the life that you want, to keep crying, keep journaling, keep seeing your therapist, keep going for long walks. And eventually it adds up to a place when you look back and you don't realize how much time has passed. But yes, this is hard. This is real hard. But it has been worth every bit of the hardness. And I just want you to know, I know how hard this has been for me. And it doesn't matter if you were with your spouse, y'all have been married for 1 year, or you had been together for 65. This was the covenant relationship that you were in, that you had joined, become one with this person, and you are trying to make sense of this world in their absence. And it is hard. Scott, life is unfair. And unfortunately, me being a Black woman in America, I got a whole list of stuff that is unfair in my existence. And I just, in my journey of this grief, we live and we die. It is hard. And there was never a death. My grandmother passed, other people passed, but the passing of my spouse, and I hear people talk about the passing of their kids, rip you apart in a way like you just never thought possible. And it's a hard process to go to. It is the most difficult. And that is why I offer the group support. Like if you go to my website, Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, we do grief support meetings twice a month. We do a men's only, hey, let's talk. We do a men's only grief support. I host a open group grief support the last Thursday of the month. We have mental health events. We have a potential trip to Atlanta that Sylvia and I are working on to make possible. for 10 people that are able to come, we're going to start having interest meetings on that. I needed to get past this date. Sylvia had some things to get past before we could start talking about it. That is why I show up the way I do, because I know this is hard. But I also know it is possible to keep living and having life. And I just had a conversation with Andrea, and her comments about this journey and what that looks like, so important. And I would encourage you to go back and listen to those comments. It is possible to keep living this life and find happiness along the way. It may never, I never expected my life to look like what it looked like with Mark. Because he's not here, it's impossible. But I did have the potential to have a life worth living. And I just encourage you and to know that you are not alone on this journey. And I will tell you all good night. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Miss Tina, for all you do.
Oh,
I'm
you're
I'm
welcome.
usually very wordy, but I just want to say thank you. Like I feel like those are the only appropriate words for what you do and all the people that you pour into and give your time to. And you know, I'm sending you the biggest hug I can for tomorrow and the days that follow, and you know, whatever time or space that you need. Um, we'll be fine, you know, we'll be
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
fine.
be off the grid probably the rest of this
Yeah,
week.
go
I'm
off the
out.
grid. I'm gonna be mad if you're on the grid. I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna troll you. If I see your little blue, if your little blue box is lit up, I'm a troll. I'm gonna troll. But sincerely, like, thank you, Tina. Like, I feel like I can't say it enough and I can't say it loud enough. But you are a special human being, and I hate that I have to know you like because of all of this, but I feel so fortunate to know you and just to be able to learn from you and laugh with you and all of those things. So, hugs. How
All
do
right,
you
thank
hug?
you.
Virtual hugs.
Thank you guys. Hey Barbie. Um, if there aren't any other questions, or I mean, if there's other questions, other things you guys want to talk about, I mean, I'll stay on. But it seems like we've answered all of the questions and all of the comments. I don't want to shortchange anybody. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and thank you for coming up, because I was like, y'all not gonna make me just talk, is you? Like, that is so boring. Like, ew.
I wasn't gonna do it. I was like, no, I'm gonna come up in a box tonight.
Thank you.
I just had to wait for those kids to go to sleep.
I was gonna
You
say,
put a little,
Danielle,
you put a
you're
little
helping
NyQuil in
quiet.
there, in the juice box.
You want that sleep gummy? No.
Okay, one day I will go live and share. Sai, you are more than welcome to message me. Maybe you want to be on my podcast, and that conversation is pre. Oh, let me say this. I host a weekly podcast under Widowhood Real Talk with Tina that you can find any place you listen to podcasts. If you are someone in this room that you are grieving the loss of anyone, message me. I would be honored to host your story on my podcast. It is open to anyone. So if you're interested in sharing your story, message me. I'll send you a Zoom link. We'll have a pre-podcast conversation, and then we can do that. I host that podcast to give people space to share their story, and because other people hearing your story will give them insight and encouragement. So that is something that is part of what I do in serving our community. And we also have a Discord. And we had a movie night last Friday. Hopefully somebody will pick another movie and we'll do something else. The Discord is there for people to connect and to be able to have some confidential conversations. So message me if you're interested in joining the Discord. And good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good night, Miss Tina.
Good night.